Don't be alarmed. This is what's left of the voice of what's left of Mike Padlipsky, but I'm not going to inflict the valedictory on you again. It's just that when I was putting together this digital version of what I'm calling the Zeroth Reunion movie, I realized it was really dull when there was no soundtrack. I mean, a silent movie is tedious. But the videotape that I was working with, which I'll tell you about in a minute, had a horrible kind of new age, non-music type soundtrack that drove me nuts. So I decided, what the heck, we'll just do a soundtrack, and I'll either make a silent version available, or if worse comes to worse, you can just, mute the soundtrack on the machine you're watching it on if you don't like the soundtrack. That's kind of up to you. Now, before I tell you about that tape business, I should mention I don't get full credit for not inflicting the valedictory on you. If I'd been able to find the final draft, who knows but what I would have given in to the temptation. But there'd been around the house I didn't grow up in what I had always thought was the valedictory, and it turned out it wasn't. It was only the second, third drafts sort of thing. And I actually tried reading the third draft, and I didn't like it. It wasn't what I remembered. Maybe I remembered it as being better than it was, but it wasn't worth it. So, okay, on to the videotape. Now, the videotape came from the, and it wasn't a very good videotape, came from the really bad black and white silent movie that came from somehow Dave Smith's old family house. But that's because Dave's mother had worked in the school, and she had somehow come into custody of this film that apparently the school system people had commissioned the shooting of during our graduation. And when I say bad, I mean bad. I mean, it was mostly underexposed, and there were some passages in it that were just so dark that even with lots of software trying to recapture a usable picture, I couldn't. I wound up chopping nearly a minute out of the original film, which was a little over 10 minutes, and this is a little over 9 minutes in the version that I'm going with. And the other thing that was really extremely annoying about the movie is that whoever did it clearly put the reels together in a kind of arbitrary and capricious fashion, and I couldn't really exactly come up with the right order, because there are a lot of scenes that you can't really tell what's supposed to come next. But the one passage that I was absolutely sure about was at the end of what is clearly the processional, where at the beginning you see Belva walking with whoever she was walking with. I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember who he was. Followed by Kenny Fligston, and I guess it was Carol Davidite, because they were going to be on stage because they were going to be performing a musical interlude, according to the program for the proceedings that I actually did find around the house. And, clearly, if the photographer had been on the ball before Belva marched in, I would have marched in with Jeannie Kistler, because as valedictorian and I guess student body president, I don't think Jeannie was class president, maybe she was, but I think she was student body president. We'd been first in, and we should have been last out, but I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, clearly that's the processional, and it goes along for, I don't know, a minute or two of running time. And then all of a sudden, there's Kenny Fligston again, and there's me and Jeannie, and there's Belva. I still don't quite know how come Belva got to be last out, because, anyway, never mind, it doesn't matter. But, excuse me, it's abundantly clear that this was the end of the recessional, not only because right after Belva goes by the camera, the people in the audience start getting up and leaving, including what looked like a guy with a diamond earring in 1956. I assume that was some sort of photographic accident, or we would have noticed. Anyway, that was weird. But the other thing is, of course, that the tassels for the last three of us are, as they had been for the rest of the people in what was properly the recessional, on the left, I guess it is. Anyway, the opposite of where they were in the processional, which I think was on the right. I'm not going to stop the recording in order to go back and check it, because it doesn't matter that much. So it was a difficult thing to deal with, but I had decided that I really thought it would be fun to do a digital conversion of it for a couple of reasons. One of which was that when Dave had nobly sprung for getting the conversion to videotape done back at the time of the 40th reunion, and I'd gotten roped in because he was kind of unwell at the time and wasn't up to running the tape in from way out in the valley where he was to whoever the committee people were we were in touch with. So I got, volunteered. I volunteered myself. I didn't get volunteered. I got involved, ferrying it in. And the 40th reunion, of course, as you might recall, if you were there, being what it was, they fouled it up so badly, they being, the committee consisting of mainly the other classes rather than our people, the joint reunion. They fouled it up so badly, I don't think they ever announced it was being shown on a television monitor off in the corner somewhere. And I don't know if anybody ever even looked at it in the videotape form. But if they had, it would have been really dark and hard to see, and at least one scene would have been out of order. And then the other reason why I thought it would be fun was because I'd finally broken down and gotten a new computer, and finally, broken down and got a DVD burner in it. And it turned out that, of course, the quality that you can get from digitally capturing a videotape isn't DVD quality anyway, so it was pretty much a no-win situation to begin with. And I should mention that I did spend an awful lot of time, waste a lot of time, trying to get the exposure looking kind of balanced, so that portions weren't too dark and portions weren't too washed out. And I don't really think I succeeded all that well, but I tried. Give me credit. I tried real hard. And I don't know. That might be about all I have to say about it, except that I guess I've got another half minute to kill, so what can I add? Let's see. Let's hit the pause button. Oh yeah, I knew there was something. If anybody is a lip reader, I would love to know what I was mouthing to the camera on my way out at the very end of the movie, which should be any second now. So, bye.